What is up, guys? So today I'm going to talk about what it's like, or what it was like for me when I used to live in crack houses, what it's like staying in a crack house from my time early 90s when I was a heroin addict. I was homeless, and I found myself frequenting crack houses. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And just before I start, I was watching a thing this morning on telly, and it was this new device what they've got in America. It's called I can't remember what you call it. It's called like a bolo string or something, and it's a little yellow box, and they fire it, and it sends out like a spinning rope. You know, like in those old cartoons where somebody's running, or them old films, and he swings a thing and they throw it and it wraps around the legs and they fall over. It's kind of like them. And this bloke stood there, it looked like he was a crackhead or something, and he was screaming, going, fuck you, F the police, you'll never take me alive, and all that. And he pulls this bolo thing out, and he's going, I'll do it. He's saying, I don't care, do it. And there was this big build up, and then he just went, right, that's it, boom. And it shot this little bit of string out, and it wrapped around his legs, and this bloke's like, just looks down at it, he said, what the fuck was that? That was gay as fuck. I was just laughing my head off. And it's this new device, fucking a bolo string or something. It's complete rubbish. Probably cost like millions of pounds to get them going as well. But yeah, that was just a funny little story. So living in crack houses when I was a crackhead. Now, back then, I just want to say why I do videos talking about this sort of stuff, because I think it's important to know why I do it. Now, when I was at my worst, if you follow me at all, you know my story. I was massively overweight. I was on like Valium, Xanax, pregabalin, gabapentin. I was on loads of drugs, smoking crack every single day. And I'd given up on life. I was like, that's it, I'm done. I've had enough of this. I used to wake up every morning and I would just start crying because I couldn't take it anymore. I just didn't want to live anymore. I'd made peace with dying, and that's the truth. And I was in a bad place. I never, ever in a million years thought I would be able to get clean. I'd given up. I was like, well, even if I get up for alcohol, I'm still on drugs. Even if I get up one drug, I'm still on 4 more, and I'm still a crackhead. I'm still smoking crack every day. And even if I get up for all that, I'm still massively overweight. But I thought to myself, just imagine though. I never thought I'd be able to, but just imagine if you could get clean, and lose all this weight. What a story that would be. And then, and then it happened. And I promised myself right at the beginning, I said, right, you're going to tell people the truth. You're going to help people by way of example, because I've been there, I've done it. And a lot of people say they want to help people. I get messages all the time saying, oh man, I love your videos, you really tell it as it is. And I try to give people like an understanding of what we go through. Because maybe, somebody's daughter's suffering with addiction, somebody's boyfriend, somebody's sister, brother, and they don't really understand it. So they watch my videos, and it gives them a bit of peace knowing that it's the addiction, it's not the person that's making them do these crazy things. And that's what I do. I try to help people. Now, a lot of people out there, especially on YouTube, that they say they want to help people. They can wear this mask and pretend that they want to help people, but really, you can only fake for so long before the mask slips, and then you go back to who you really are. A good example, Brian Cockrell, he comes online, or he used to, he's banned now, and he used to come online saying, I'm just trying to help people, I've saved 49 lives this month, because apparently he keeps count. But then as soon as he gets hit with a little bit of adversity, what happens? The mask slips, and he starts threatening people and harassing people. And that's why he was in court yesterday for harassing tinfoil and calling him names. So anyone can say anything, but there's very few that actually say it as it really is. And that's what I wanted to do. That's why I started a channel. And sometimes it's embarrassing, sometimes it's treacherous, sometimes it's out of order, sometimes it's funny, but it's real, and that's so that's why I do what I do. So living in a crack house, like how I ended up in that situation. Now, when I was a heroin addict, what heroin does is it takes away all your problems and then just leaves you with one, which is getting money for heroin. And that's when people get desperate, because they need money for heroin, and if you don't get it, then you know you're going to be up all night, you're going to be ill, you're going to be puking, you know, you're going to have headache, you're going to feel absolutely terrible. So that's the money, the drugs become the most important thing in the world. You don't care about appearance, you don't care about haircut, clothes, shower, none of that stuff. All you care about is money for drugs. So you end up not paying your rent, or if you live with your family, end up stealing off your family. And I'm not saying everybody does this, I'm just talking my own personal experience. And then, you know, you're unlivable. You can't live around someone like that, so you have to get rid of them. And so that's how I ended up on the streets. And when you're homeless, you know, it's horrible. You just want somewhere to sit down, somewhere warm if it's cold, you know, if it's raining or snowing. And that's when you end up in a crack house. That's where I ended up, in crack houses. Now, just to put you exactly what a crack house is like, you go in there and usually there's furniture overturned, you know, old clothes everywhere, blankets, needles all over the floors. I never understood that. I've never used needles myself, but most people do. And they would have like a little black box with needle, spoon, citric acid or vinegar or lemon juice, or a bit of water in it. And they'd have it in like a little black box, what you get from the chemist. And I'd never understood, why don't you just take it out, do your dig, and then put it back, and then get rid of it. But they don't. They'll pull it out, they'll have the dig, and then they'll spray blood around the fucking room, on the ceiling, and then just throw it in the corner, you know. And it's just, nobody wants to be around needles. I've seen so many people get battered for that. I remember the first time I went to prison, a kid who's dead now. He came into the induction area, and apparently he'd been throwing needles away next to a kid's playground. And you know, a couple of lads had a word. I said, "Oh yeah, he's done this." They just jumped on, just absolutely smashed him, knocked him out, and stamped all over him. And the guards had to drag him out and carry him off, you know, and they were all shouting, "What up?" laughing. And yeah, so I've seen so many people get beat up for doing that, and I've never really understood it. So yeah, there'll be needles all over the floor, blood all up the walls. And another thing what annoyed me is, because there's no electricity and no water, there would be loads of candles everywhere. And the toilet would always be full and disgusting, because you can't flush it because there's no water. So then people would start pissing in the rooms and, you know, crapping in the rooms. And I never understood that. I'm like, why would you do that? Maybe I'm just like a bit of a snob, I don't know. But yeah, there would be like a settee, a mattress, clothes all over, blankets all over, and no electricity, so there'd be candles burning. It would stink of piss, and there'd be blood and snot all up the walls, just disgusting. And you would have to live in there, you'd have to sleep in there. And it can be scary because, you know, everybody knows that's a crack house. So the police know it's a crack house. They know if they come, they're going to catch someone doing drugs because it's a crack house. It's an easy bust for them. But the local bullies, the local taxmen, and I'm not talking about Brian Cockrell, Lee Duffy type level taxmen. They were like the cream of the crop. I'm talking, you know, just like local bullies that just beat people up and take the drugs off them. It's usually guys who can fight, big dudes that are big and violent. And they know that there's going to be crackheads in there, so they would go in. And even if all you've got, there's always somebody after what you've got. Even if all you've got is a tenner back, there's always somebody that wants it. And the taxmen would come in and just beat people up and just take the drugs and take whatever money they've got. You know, it's an easy tax for them, isn't it? They know somebody's going to be in there, so you could never really relax. And I remember there was one guy in there, a black guy. He's still alive, actually. I'm not going to say his name. I saw him in town the other week. He looks an absolute mess, but he's still alive. He's a beggar now. And he was sat on the settee doing his drugs, and the local taxmen have come in, and they didn't even say it. I just walked up, bang, fucking swatted him in his eye, and he started squealing. I've never heard no like it. He was proper screaming like a girl. Like, yeah. He must never have been hit before. and they just battered him, and took his drugs. I've been battered before. I've been robbed when I was selling drugs. Taxmen came around, put a knife in my eye, beat the crap out of me, busted all my jaw up. So many times been beat up by taxmen. That's why I don't like them, because they're just fucking scumbags. And yeah, it's an easy graft for them. So you can never really relax while you're in there. You just sat there. And another thing, what happened in a crack house, which I have spoke about before. For some reason, people get all upset when I mention things I've mentioned before. I could do like a 20-minute video, and the last minute at the end, I'll talk about some of what I've said before. And you've said this before, but so you might have heard me talk about this before, but. Someone came down from, he was a beggar, I could see his face, I can't remember his name, from Scarborough. I'm sure it was Scarborough, I might be wrong. And there was, the gear what was about in Donny was crap. It was absolutely rubbish. It was like bash, they call it bash, which means it's just fake gear. There's probably a little bit of gear in it, but it didn't really do it. So we've all sat in this crack house, and we decided to chip in and go and get like a weight, which is like a team for an eighth. From Sheffield, because this kid knew someone. So we've given the guy the money. He's gone to Sheffield. He's come back, and he said to us, he said, "Listen, this is strong stuff. So the guys told us this is really strong. So we'll go careful with it." But they say that all the time, just to sell it. They say, "Yeah, it's fucking dynamite, this." But then you'd have it, you'd be like, "It's fucking shit." but yeah, in this case, it was true. So I'm sat there tooting away on the foil. That's how you use it. You put it on foil and chase it and smoke it. That's the only way I've ever done it. This beggar has got like a 0.4, I think he got, which is 4 bags in one, and they sell it a bit cheaper. It's like for 4 bags it's 40 quid, but if you buy a 0.4 it'll be like 25 or something. And yeah, he's put it all in one hit in his needle and just banged it up, and then he's like sloped back on the settee with his mouth open, and died right there on the settee. He went really like an ashen grey colour with blue lips. And that face is burned into my brain, and nobody cared. Nobody cared enough to go and get the ambulance, because you've got to bear in mind this was like early 90s, so there was no phones. All it was you had to go and find a phone box. And usually they'd been smashed up by vigilantes, so we would have had to, and we was in the flats right at the top in this little crack flat, and the lift would never worked. And when it did work, I think back now, all the times I fucking risked my life going on that lift, a real stinky, piss-smelling lift, and you used to be in it and they'd get kids swaying it, like laughing, like, "Fuck, you're going to kill us," and you could hear it creaking, and fuck. But anyway, the lift wasn't working. So someone would have had to run all the way down the stairs, run all the way into the town centre, run around, find a phone box, phone the police, phone the ambulance, but nobody wants the police around. Nobody, do you know what I mean? That's just the reality of addiction. Nobody cared enough to help this guy. I don't think he could have done it anyway. And he died right there, and people were just doing drugs around his dead body. And that's, like when people think back about the younger years, they think back of good times, the good old days. I remember when I was a kid and we did this and we did that. But mine's all fucking doom and gloom and prison and homelessness and misery, thoughts, things like this. Dead bodies, fucking, that sort of stuff. And people don't really realise that. They see some drug addicts say, fucking smackhead, They don't know what we have to go through, fucking what we've been through. They just don't know. But yeah, this guy fucking died there, and I've got to live with knowing that maybe I could have done something, or even just made an effort, but none of us cared enough to do anything. And that's what it's like, living in a crack house, and just people coming around selling dodgy gear from there, and then, trying to scam people, and then, whoever gets scammed comes back and they want to smash everybody up who's in there because they can't find the person that did it, so they just want to get whoever's in there. There's just a whole host of problems. And I nearly got scammed not long ago, just a little side quest. It was a couple of times when I've been scammed and I was like, you know what, that was fucking good. And there was one when I was just at the Woodfield Club, just from near where I live. And I was walking along, and there was a young lass. She only looked about 17, 18 years old, and she was sat on the floor, you know, smeared makeup, crying, and her hair all a mess. And so, you know, me, a concerned citizen, I was like, "Fucking hell, you all right?" And she was saying, crying, and I went over. I said, "Are you all right? What's happened?" And then a group of lads have come fucking out of nowhere. I don't know where they came from. And then they started saying, "Oh, you're out of order." I was like, "What are you on about?" I was shocked, you know. And one of them says, "Oh, you've been messaging her. You've been fucking sending her nasty messages." I said, "What are you fucking talking about?" And he says, "Well, let's have a look at your phone then. We know it's you." I was like, "I don't know what you're on about, mate." And anyway, the problem was for them, they chose the one person in Donny. You know, I was an alcoholic crackhead, so I didn't have a phone. So I didn't have a phone for them to look at. And I got round to my mates, I'm not going to name him, and I says, "Fucking hell, I was just round there at the pub there," and I told him what had happened. He says, "Yeah, it's a scam." He says, "They would have fucking got your phone and ran off with it." And I was like, "Fucking hell, I didn't even think of that." You know what I mean? So I said, "Fucking, let's get in van, let's go and get him." So we jumped in the van, you know, I've grabbed like a spanner or a hammer or something, and we've gone flying round, and they were still there, and I fucking jumped out like, "I'm Spartacus." I never said that. I jumped out and I was like, you know, went running towards them, and they all fucking ran away. But that was a pretty good scam, you know. If I'd have been just a normal dude, I would have given my phone, because I'd been like, "Look, it weren't me, look." And then they'd have just ran away. But unlucky for them, I was a fucking crackhead, so I didn't have a phone. But that was a good scam. And there was another one as well. What happened, I can't remember what he did. He was this fat ginger kid when I was selling. And he's fucking sneaky as hell. He come round, he knew I was selling, and I think what he did was he gave me some crack to sell, like, on the side, you know, because he was selling. He said, "Oh, will you sell us these few stones?" Nice one. And it was dodgy stuff, and the way he did it, you know, it was really fucking good. And he went to great lengths to trick me, and I just remember, I can't remember the exact scam, but I remember thinking to myself, you know what, I'm not even angry, because that was fucking good. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, that is what it's like living in a crack house. You know, it's treacherous, it's miserable. You're a target because, you know, you can't really relax because the police could come around and arrest you, because everybody knows it's a crack house. You know, there's going to be drugs in there. So if you're a taxman, you'll be in there, fucking, and it's just miserable. But it's somewhere out of the rain, somewhere where you can do drugs. And like, I used to smoke it, so it's hard. Like if you dig it, if you inject it, you know, you can cook it up like pretty much anywhere and just bang it up. But when you smoke it, you need somewhere where there's no wind, otherwise the lighter won't work, you know, and it's blowing all over. So it was an ideal place just to sit and have a smoke and maybe stop there a couple of nights, but you could never really relax, and you're surrounded by needles, and just imagine like when I had a smoke, I would screw the foil up and throw it on the floor, you know, I'm not going to lie. But that's not, you know, you can just get that up easy with a dustpan. But needles, you know, if somebody spikes their hand, you could end up getting epipongo, you could end up getting diseases, you know, that sort of stuff. So I never really understood just throwing needles on the floor. It was just fucking disgusting. But that's the world of addiction. What a sordid, miserable world it is. But I'm clean now, I'm nearly clean. I'm still on buprenorphine, low dose. But anyway, that's the video for today. If you like this video, press the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Bonnet de douche.